So I saw this video the other day of Jordan Peterson interviewing James Lindsay. Jordan Peterson's a clinical psychologist from Canada. Jordan goes into at a certain point this idea about how bad leaders work, and they work. A telltale sign of bad leadership is the use of fear, right? Just watch what he has to say. I think this is absolutely brilliant. It's spot on. He's right. Just listen and tell me what you think about this. Okay, here we go.
Tyrants use fear to produce compulsion. They're after compulsion. They want to aggregate the power. And so they use fear. And apocalyptic fear is the best sort of fear to use.
Of course.
Right. And so now you can tell the tyrants, because everybody wants to know who's listening. How do you tell the tyrants from the real leaders? Okay, the tyrants will frighten you into compulsion. And they'll use the crisis and the catastrophe to justify the compulsion. And you might say,
now, is that your experience? Have you seen this before, where someone who is a bad leader, mediocre leader, will do what they can in order to frighten you into getting it done rather than inspiring you or coming alongside and helping you grow or that sort of thing? I think he's onto something, but it gets even better. Listen to this.
Well, there's a real crisis. And the right answer to that is there's always an apocalyptic crisis.
That's right.
That's a universal, eternal truth. And it's partly because all of us die. It's partly not because you die and I die, but also because every single person we know, our whole culture, everything we know will die.
Yeah.
So the apocalypse is always there. And sometimes that happens dramatically and sometimes it happens incrementally, but it happens.
Uh-huh.
And so we're always facing apocalyptic crises.
Yeah.
Because of that, and then you say, well, in spite of that, you can have a form of government that's not a tyranny. Well, not if you use the fear of the apocalyptic crisis to compel and to aggregate power. And so any leader who tells you that the crisis is so intense that it necessitates emergency compulsion, that's a tyrant.
That's exactly.
Right? Yeah, so look at that. And so I was just talking to someone today about how Trump and Hillary contended with each other for the 2016 election. The way they did it was so visceral, so intense, so race to the bottom, that it didn't matter, I don't think, who won. They were not going to be able to govern because the way they approach things. Now, that's not what he's saying here, but just like, look, by their fruits you'll know them. It's really fascinating to see how this works. And he's saying that if you are a leader who has to do that, you're not big enough for the job. Listen to this.
And then there's another corollary to that, which is, imagine you're tyrannical and you are genuinely frightened by this crisis. Then I would say your nervous system has indicated by the paralysis of your fear that you're too small a knight for that dragon. Right. And so you shouldn't be parading yourself around as a leader. It's like, no, you're a frightened tyrant. You're not a leader. And we can tell you're not a leader because you're a frightened tyrant.
Now, so what is a good leader? A good leader is someone who not only knows where he's going and understands the vision and can engage in sense making and thinks about how to efficiently get people there, but he's also thinking about the people that he's bringing along. He's not just trying to frighten them into it. He's trying to help them see the future. He's trying to help them embrace what that future could look like. He's trying to help them grow so that they are adequate or able to withstand whatever is going to come against them in the future. He's moving, like he's thinking through the relationship between them and that future, not just what he's doing as a leader. I was watching a YouTube video because I don't really understand YouTube very well. I was watching a YouTube video not too long ago that was talking about how to grow on YouTube and stop thinking about the analytics, start thinking about your audience. That's what a good leader does. He thinks about the people that he's leading as much as, or maybe even more than, what he thinks about his own leadership or how he can manipulate them or whatever else is going on in his mind about his leadership. It's not about his leadership. Leadership is a symbiotic relation between the leader and the followers, and the space in between. There's more to the story. Okay, a little bit more from Jordan.
Right. If you were a leader, even in the face of a crisis, you would keep your head.
That's right.
And you wouldn't use compulsion.
That's right.
And what happens if you lose your head? See, when the leader gets a cough, the followers get pneumonia. Like when you as a leader speak, when you're speaking, it's magnified. It's so loud just because you're speaking, because you're the leader. That's the way leadership works. And so if you're aware of that, you realize I have to be steady, I have to be level, I have to be careful about what I say and how I speak, because people will hear this or interpret it or amplify it just because of the position. So this is all really sound advice. Okay, let
So
me
all
keep
these
going.
apocalyptic nightmare mongers who are saying, well, we're going to burn up the planet. It's like, yeah, that and 10 other apocalypses, by the way. That doesn't mean you get to centralize all the power and take it for yourself and use compulsion. And this
Now, so using compulsion is a desire of bad leaders. How do they get there? They get there through crises. Are crises there? Of course they're there. It's almost like in humor, you can tell a lewd or like with little kids a fart joke, but a really clever comedian is not going to tell like these. That's like low hanging fruit. That's just so so simple, so base. A really clever comedian is going to be engaged in some significant wordplay, and he's going to set up certain scenarios. And like, there's a difference between that really good comedian and someone who can just tell a knock knock joke or tell a lewd joke in order to get a cheap laugh. And I think it works the same way here. Okay.
Like, I really started to understand that as far as I was concerned, I was at war when I saw that the leftist, radical, narcissistic, malignant types were willing to sacrifice the poor to their climate scam.
That's right.
Right. So, well,
Okay. So regardless of what he's talking about in the specifics, hear what he had to say. Bad leaders were willing to use people for their ends. It doesn't really matter what those ends are as he's talking about it, but bad leaders are willing to sacrifice others for their ends. So how do you know a good leader? Does that good leader help you grow? Does that good leader want your best? Does that good leader move you the right direction? Does he not only have a vision, but is it our vision? Like, you got to remember, vision is not just like, I, the leader, have a vision, now follow me. It's our vision. How do we get you where you're trying to go? That's how we will corporately go and get there. And then compassion for the people. And compassion actually means suffering with, not just, oh, I feel bad for you, but I'm getting in the trench with you. I have my arm around you, and let's go together. A good leader is going to do those things. A bad leader is going to scare you. And Jordan Peterson did an excellent job showing what the difference was between these two things. Okay, that's all that I have. Tell me what you think about this little clip about how he defined what leadership is and how leadership really works and how to identify a tyrannical leader. The answer is fear. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. Tell me what you think about this video in the comments below.